The Kurds are a group of people with their own history and culture. They mostly live in a place called Kurdistan, which is spread across parts of Turkey, Syria, Iraq and Iran. Even though there are many Kurds, between 30 and 45 million, they don't have their own country. They are the largest group of people in the world without a state. After World War I, when the Ottoman Empire collapsed, the Kurds were told they would get their own country, but that didn't happen. Their land was split up between Turkey, Syria, Iraq and Iran. This left the Kurds as a minority group in these countries, where they were often treated unfairly. The Kurds have always wanted their own country, but the governments of Turkey, Syria, Iraq and Iran don't want that. These governments think that if the Kurds have their own country, it will break up their own countries. Because of this, the Kurds have been treated badly. Their culture has been suppressed, and sometimes there has even been violence. The Kurds' experiences are different in each country. Sometimes they are treated very badly, and other times they have more freedom. But one thing is the same: they don't have their own country, and they have to fight for their rights. Syria is a good example of how badly the Kurds have been treated. Since 1963, the Ba'ath Party has been in charge of Syria, and they have been very unfair to the Kurds. One of the worst things they did was in 1962. They did a census, and they said that many Kurds were not really Syrian citizens. This meant that these Kurds couldn't go to school, get a job, or even own property. The Syrian government tried to make the Kurds more like Arabs. They changed the names of Kurdish villages to Arabic names. They closed Kurdish schools and said that people couldn't speak Kurdish in public. It was like they were trying to erase the Kurds from history. When the Syrian civil war started in 2011, the Kurds thought things might get better. The Syrian government was losing control, so the Kurds set up their own government in the north. They formed the Syrian Democratic Forces, or SDF, a group of different people who fought against ISIS. The SDF, with help from the United States, was very important in defeating ISIS. But the Kurds' new freedom didn't last long. Turkey sees the Kurdish forces in Syria as part of the PKK, a group Turkey says is a terrorist group. In 2019, Turkey attacked northern Syria to push the Kurdish forces away from its border. Many people had to leave their homes, and the area became even more unstable. Turkey's views on the Kurds are complicated. Turkey has a large Kurdish population, about 20 million people. For many years, a group called the PKK has been fighting in Turkey for Kurdish rights. This fighting has caused many deaths. Turkey is worried that if Kurds have their own country, or even just more control in nearby countries, it will encourage the PKK and Kurds in Turkey to fight for more rights. This is why Turkey has been so involved in Syria, especially in areas near its border. The Kurds in Turkey have had a very difficult time. For a long time, the Turkish government tried to make them more like Turks. They weren't allowed to speak Kurdish in public, use Kurdish names, or have Kurdish groups. Recently, things have gotten a little better for Kurds in Turkey. They have more cultural freedom and some political power, but they still face discrimination. The government has arrested Kurdish politicians, activists and journalists, especially after someone tried to overthrow the government in 2016. In Iraq, things are different for the Kurds. After the United States invaded Iraq in 2003 and removed Saddam Hussein from power, the Kurds got some control over their own area. They formed the Kurdistan Regional Government, or KRG. But the Iraqi government doesn't always agree with the KRG, especially about oil money and land. When ISIS attacked in 2014, it was a big problem for the KRG. Kurdish fighters called Peshmerga helped defeat ISIS with help from the United States. But the fighting and the problems that came after have hurt the KRG. The Kurds want to be recognized, be safe, and keep their culture. They want to live in a place where they can speak their language, celebrate their culture, and make their own decisions. The Kurds have been treated badly for many years. They want freedom and to be treated equally. They have been very strong and determined. They have organized themselves, kept their culture alive, and fought for their rights. The problems the Kurds face aren't just about the countries they live in. Other countries are involved too. Powerful countries have their own reasons for getting involved, and the Kurds are often caught in the middle. The United States has sometimes helped the Kurds, especially when fighting ISIS. But the United States hasn't always been a good friend to the Kurds. This has made the Kurds vulnerable to countries like Turkey, which has used its military against the Kurds. No one knows what will happen to the Kurds. They face many problems. The world is a complicated place. Extremist groups like ISIS are dangerous, and sometimes the Kurds don't agree with each other. Other countries haven't done enough to help the Kurds. But even with all these problems, the Kurds keep fighting for a better future. They want peace and for their rights to be respected. The world needs to help them.